Hi, team. We're back. Day four. Day four. Lesson number one. Getting all confused. So this course is now beginning. We've kind of like gotten the precursor stuff out of the way. This course is 21 lessons, and it's broken down into looking at your thoughts, your integrity of your thoughts, your integrity with your words, and your integrity of your actions, and how those things line up. And so starting with integrity of thought. So this is what I had to say in 2013 about integrity of thought. The first part of this course deals with the integrity of our thoughts. When people think about living with integrity, they will often think about the honesty of their words, reflecting about how often they tell the truth. They will also associate integrity with how often their actions match up with their words. Said another way, do they do what they say they are going to do? While our words and our actions do indeed reflect our integrity, they originate from somewhere. It is our thoughts that actually create our reality and determine our level of integrity. It is our ability to be authentic and honest with ourselves that determines our ability to be honest with others. It has been said that our conscious thoughts, that is, those that we are aware of, make up only between 2 to 10% of our total thoughts. In other words, between 90 to 98% of our thought processes are actually unconscious or happening outside of our conscious awareness. When I first heard this statistic, I have to say I was shocked. I think it was Wayne Dyer that said that. How could I be completely unaware of so much of what I think? It makes sense when you think about it. Our senses are capable of taking in so many stimuli at once. We are constantly being bombarded by sights, sounds, smells, sensations. Can you imagine if our brains weren't programmed to discern what is necessary amongst all of this input? We would be completely overwhelmed. In addition to taking in and processing stimuli, our brains are making unconscious judgments, assessments, and decisions based on the connections that exist within our neural networks. In other words, our unconscious mind is simply following the patterns that already exist within our brain. What creates those patterns in our brain is where it gets interesting. It is our conscious thoughts that create these patterns and associations in our brain. Therefore, what we pay attention to creates our reality. So Mel Robbins is a life coach out there killing it right now with lots of amazing content. Shout out Mel. I love her content. She doesn't pull any punches. She's a no bullshit kind of gal, and her work is hugely based in science and super practical, relatable. I just really resonate with a lot of her messaging, and I kind of got that idea. I was telling you about in an earlier lesson, the 5 things from her. Because she, and being a neuroscience nerd, she was saying that's the reticular activation system of the brain is actually like trained to, if you tell it, pay attention to these 5 things, it will. And it's the example of, you're thinking about buying a new car and you're thinking about buying a Chevy Avalanche. I don't even know if they make those anymore, but I had one. And all of a sudden you see avalanches everywhere. Well, there isn't more avalanches. Now it's at the front of your mind and now you're seeing the avalanches. So it's the same thing with these 5 thoughts. It's the same thing with, really deciding what's going to go on the front menu of what you're going to pay attention to. And that's part of the practice we talked about earlier. If you are still not sure what I mean, perhaps an analogy will help. Imagine that your conscious mind is the CEO of a large multinational corporation. Given the breadth and the scope of the corporation, it would be impossible for the CEO to make every single decision that would affect the company. He's not going to read every single email. What the CEO can do is set policies and procedures so that the rest of his or her employees know what his or her wishes or intentions are for the company. Your unconscious mind represents everyone else that works for the company. It simply follows the orders and wishes of the CEO. Throughout this course, we will be referring to the mind. That's actually a pretty good analogy. I don't know where the hell that came from. That must have been channeled wisdom from the universe. But that's a pretty good analogy. I love it. Throughout this course, I had totally forgotten about that. We will be referring to the mind collectively as the ego or the voice in your head. Calling it a voice is appropriate because it is your conscious thoughts, the thoughts that you are aware of, the ones that you can hear inside of you. Note that the voice in your head is quite different than the inner knowing that you have, your intuition. This inner knowing comes from deep inside of you, from your heart center. Soul center, whatever language you want to put on that. This is worth mentioning here because sometimes what you know to be true in your heart doesn't match up with the voice in your head. It is actually these inconsistencies between our heart and our head which threaten our integrity. Lesson number 1. The voice in your head. Our thoughts reside in our mind. Our thoughts make up the voice in our head. Our thoughts are the voice of our ego. It is important to qualify something here. Our ego isn't a bad thing. Sure, it may have a bad reputation, but only because it has the capacity to be misused. The ego has a valuable role to play in our journey towards profound transformation. It is what keeps us motivated and moving forward on our path. It contains the forces that keep us driving forward, the fear of failure, mixed with the desire to succeed. It is that voice of reason that ensures our basic physical needs are continually being met, our need for safety, for privacy, for security, for nourishment. When you develop the ability to listen, truly listen to the voice in your head, you can then begin to discern the information that you receive. In hearing that voice more clearly, more consciously, you will be able to glean more information about how that voice is affecting your current reality, and therefore you will develop the ability to change that reality. In identifying the voice in your mind, you will begin to feel the difference between your thoughts and your instincts. A while back, a friend turned me on to Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. The Artist's Way is a fantastic book for assisting you in stepping into your creativity, and I found one of the techniques in the book really useful for getting at the voice in my head. The author calls this technique morning pages. Essentially, you wake up each day, and before you do anything else, you sit down with a journal and engage in stream of thought writing. Stream of thought writing is exactly what it sounds like, writing every single thought that comes to mind. Even if you aren't sure what to write and nothing comes forward, you write that down. I loved that instruction. I was like, I don't know what to write when I was getting started. And then see where that thought takes you. If it helps, I call this exercise puking on paper. Colorful, I know. But for me, it helps me to step into the true essence of the activity. Here are some important things to keep in mind when doing this kind of writing. Try not to censor yourself. Allow yourself to write down everything that comes to mind. If you're worried about someone reading your thoughts, keep your journal or pages in a safe place. Don't go back and reread or edit the pages. Allow them to stand alone after they have finished. We will be revisiting them later on in the course. Don't worry about sentence structure, punctuation, or readability. Set a time limit for each writing session. 5 minutes is a good place to start. If you have more time, you can go on for longer, but use a timer to keep yourself in check. Writing first thing in the day is recommended because nothing has really happened in your day yet. It is kind of like working on a blank canvas. I would suggest trying to set some time aside for this type of writing every day for the period of time that you committed to taking this course. You will need at least a few days worth of stream of thought writing in order to move on to the next lesson, so plan accordingly. If, however, you don't have time for this strategy or it doesn't resonate with you, simply continue to sit in meditation and notice which thoughts fly across the screen of your mind. Also, if you're finding the process of getting in touch with your inner voice difficult, or if you are surprised by what you are uncovering, don't worry. This is quite normal. The important thing is to stick with it. I recently had a coaching session with a woman who told me that until we started working together, she had never even entertained the notion that one could change one's thoughts. What I'm trying to say is, start where you are at. Know that is exactly where you should be on the journey. Questions for reflection. How in touch are you with the voice in your head? What is the quality of the voice in your head? Is it a kind, loving voice, or is it a judgmental one? Would you say that you have integrity of thought? The actions are, begin to get in touch with the voice in your head by sitting quietly for 5 to 10 minutes each day. Remember to allow whatever arises to simply do so. Engage in stream of thought writing every day for at least 1 week. So that's the end of the lesson today. But I guess my thoughts on this have expanded a little bit since I wrote this. I recently read Jill Bolte Taylor's book. I'm going to forget the name of it. Darn it. It's the book about the 4 characters. So Jill Bolte Taylor has one of the most popular TED Talks ever recorded. And she is a neuroscientist who suffered a massive stroke. And she kind of stayed present and conscious through losing that capacity through the left side of her brain. And she became a right-brained, entirely right-brained person. And as she took 8 years of her life to regain and rewire and relearn the skills that live in her left brain, she developed an awareness or a relationship with what she calls the 4 characters. So the left front of your brain is in charge of getting tasks done, showing up on time, being organized, etc. The back left part of your brain, that's character 2, is the freak out, anxious, worry, tell you all the things that are going to go wrong part of your brain. The character 3, the back right side of your brain, is like your inner child, your playful child, the one that, just wants to go do their own thing and doesn't want to do the things that character 1 wants her to do. And your character 4 is kind of like your higher self, your essential self, your authentic self, your wise self. And I did a little bit of journaling and journeying with these 4 parts of my brain. And, so the voices in your head, the thoughts in your head actually are multiple. There's more than one character up there, which really resonates with me because it feels really true. So I actually named them and gave them each a persona. And my medicine name, Nahani Marin, is my character 4. And she's the one that brings the characters all together. And Jill Bolte Taylor would call it a brain huddle to say, okay, whoa. The anxious character 2, lower left part of my brain, she's the anxiety one. I named her Anxious Annie, and so my middle name's Anne. And so when she pops up, I go, shh, it's okay. Shani, it's okay. So I've learned to, you can hear, bring some lightness into this process of examining my thoughts and trying to steer the ship of, holism, healing, integrity. Another word for integrity is whole. So those are my thoughts about your integrity of thought. Those are some of the tools that I've learned, even as recently as in the last 6 months or so. So have fun with this. Have fun getting to know the voice in your head. I haven't said this yet, but I would encourage you to enter into a dialogue with me at any point through this course. Via email or via my website, which is www.marybarrows.com. You can contact me through there, through social media. If you're watching this, probably you are on social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as Nahani Marin Barrows on both of those platforms. I'm on YouTube. Obviously, you're watching this on YouTube. And and if you were curious about coaching with me, it is a 1-hour discovery call, no charge kind of protocol where we would meet and online and see if we're a good fit, see what you're hoping to get out of coaching. And I'd like to work with people for 6 months. So it would be a 6-month commitment. And so hopefully you got something out of lesson 1.